Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Ultra hardware. This is their part number 43608. This is their grade 3 deadbolt. They call it a Standard Duty Deadbolt. It is a single cylinder deadbolt. And this lock is also master keyed. You can purchase a master key for it as well. It's keyed differently, and it's master keyed. So the bottom line is how that works is as follows. I ordered 12 deadbolts, 2 boxes of 6. These are all indeed keyed differently. The biddings will certainly differ. The bidding is the code or the cuts on the key. We call it the bidding, or sometimes it's literally called the differ. Not really a term that's used as much as bidding. Single cylinder, but this client needed them all to operate under a master key. Well, that master key is indeed available. And this master key is certainly going to work this lock and all of the other 12 that are back there. Okay, so that's how this works in general. So let's get to what this lock is specifically. Let's take a tour of all the parts in the box, and then we will look at the installation instructions and template that are included. This is a single cylinder deadbolt. Let's go through the extended description. This is a stainless steel. Okay, it's not made of stainless, but it sure has a stainless look. You've got some zinc dichromate plated material in the back. This is the outer cylinder housing for this single cylinder deadbolt. This is a typical sort of rim cylinder construction that you'll see in a grade 3 deadbolt. Let's define grade 3. Grade 3 means that the lock has passed a duty cycle of 250,000 operations. Not that it breaks at the 250,001 operation. It's hit that mark. They didn't probably continue to test it, even though they could have. But it is tested to meet and or exceed that 250,000 cycle range. Grade is certainly very typical of residential hardware. There would be certainly an advantage of the Ultra lock over others that you might be looking at that are in a similar cost range. At least this lock does carry an ANSI grade, American National Standards Institute. Other locks that you can certainly buy will not have been tested whatsoever. At least this has been found to achieve at least 250,000 cycles. In a residential application, 250,000 cycles. Let's say you lock the door at a minimum twice a day. Let's say you locked it, 10 times a day. 250,000 divided by 10 divided by 365. Lots of years, and it will last just under normal wear and tear. So stainless steel finish, they say, and it does indeed give us a look of stainless steel. It would certainly be compatible with satin chrome requirements or even nickel requirements. It will certainly be very close to, it's not stainless steel because it's not made of stainless steel, so it's not going to have a true finish. But it's certainly a very attractive satin chrome, satin nickel stainless finish. Okay. Then it's a single cylinder because it has a thumb turn on the inside. Okay. KW1 keyway, that means that this is the quick-set keyway. We'll have factory original look-alike bow shape. Quick-set, the KW1 or the typical quick-set 1176 is, I understand, the most common keyway there is in the world, or at least in North America. So very common. 6-way adjustable latch, they are telling us. I'm going to go with no on that. A 6-way adjustable latch. This would be a 4-way adjustable latch. So first of all, this lock can be set into a 2 3/4 or 2 3/8 disposition. That dimension is the edge of the door to the center of the hole. 2 3/8. Okay. 2 3/4. 4-way. So that's 2 ways. with this radiused corner latch face. And that's it. It's a two-way adjustable latch. There is no way to turn this into a square corner or into a drive-in. So this is just there is no realistic way to turn this into a drive-in latch or one that has square corners. So it's not a six-way adjustable latch. Six-way adjustable latch would mean radius corner faceplate, 2 back sets, that's 2. Square corner faceplate, 2 back sets, that's 4. Drive-in style with two back sets, that would be 6. This is a two-way. It's going to include a strike that's also radius corner. It's going to include 6 screws. You'll need 2 to hold the body together, which are those longer machine screws. They're going to go through the inside thumb turn, through the door and into the what is basically a rim cylinder. Okay. Then you're going to have 4 screws, 2 for the strike, 2 for the latch. Those are wood screws. And after that, there's nothing else included other than the 2 original keys and your installation instructions, which there is a link to down below, a scan of this item. Okay. And we're going to take a look at that next. I want to do take a couple of basic dimensional properties. The diameter of the inside thumb turn, about 2.5 inch. The overall projection with the thumb piece itself is about 1 1/8 inches. The outside cylinder housing, about 2 9/16. Overall projection, 1 inch. Okay. This latch is going to be 2 1/4 by 1 inch wide. The strike itself, that's going to be 2 1/4 by 1 inch wide as well. You know it's the strike because it has the larger preparation in it. Now, let's take a look at the template, the installation instructions, and the instructions on how to adjust the latch. Okay, so taking a tour through the installation instructions that are linked to down below. Page 1 is the steps to prepare the door, which we'll touch on briefly quickly. These deadbolts are incredibly easy to put together, but they have a fatal flaw. Not a fatal flaw, not these deadbolts. All deadbolts do, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the instructions on how to set or select the proper back set. So, and we'll talk about that flaw. It's not ultra, it's just the way deadbolts are. Step 1 is going to be mark your door. You're going to get a template down here. So quickly, 2 3/8 or 2 3/4 are your 2 options. Be mindful that they're saying that the template must be located on the high edge of the bevel, and that would be, without question, the pull side of the door. On the pull side of the door. And let's study this template. Certainly what they're saying to do, the high side of the bevel, as you can see, when I put my tape measure on and go from the edge of the door to the center of the hole, it's just shy on 2 3/8. Well, if your door is beveled, if your door is not beveled, it doesn't matter what side you put it on. But if it's beveled, it'll be on the high side of the door, which is indeed the pull side. Or in a residential application where doors swing in, it would be on the inside. The issue, however, is that the template's not exactly where it needs to be at all. It is off probably every bit of 3/32 of an inch. The high side of the bevel, back set is defined from the center line of the thickness of the door to the hole. Well, the high side of the bevel is actually going to be a dimension too far over. And what they're already giving us is high side of the bevel. If your bevel is 1/8 inch for every 2 inches in door thickness, and that means you have to compensate by about just less than a 1/16. And if their template is off by the same amount, you're going to be kind of off with your holes if you were to measure on either side of a beveled edge door. Edge of the door to the center of that is definitely 2 3/8. So be mindful that that template, it's going to be close, but it's not going to be perfect. The bevel is specifically defined as this dimension that I'm going to draw, and you will compensate. This applies if you have a beveled edge door. If you do not have a beveled edge door, doesn't matter. Right there. The edge of the center of the thickness of the door to the center of the 2 1/8 inch hole, if that's your 2 1/8 inch hole. Not over here 2 3/8 and not over here 2 3/8, in the center. So compensate accordingly. I have lots of other, there's a video that I have that you can find on YouTube. That I go on and discuss this at length, so you can search that video out. So moving into step 2, where you're drilling the holes, they show a typical hole saw and then an auger bit is what they show. If you have an auger bit, use it. 2 1/8 inch hole saw is really great. This requires, this doesn't require a 2 1/8 inch hole. Not at all. You could make that work with an 1.5 inch hole. You definitely could. This would work. There ought to be a mention in there about, an 1.5 inch hole. Yeah, this would work. I mean, this is going to sit on your 2 1/8 inch hole pretty well. This down in here is basically just 1.5 inches. So this would work on an 1.5 inch hole, provided that you were able to get the screws through the housing. Yeah, so yeah, this would work on an 1.5 inch hole. So that's nice. You can adapt this to a smaller. The dimension outside from here to here is a little less than 1.5 inches. The thumb turn doesn't care what size hole that you put there. Okay, so you can do a 2 1/8 or 1.5 inches. Hole saw is great. Mark the hole on either side accordingly and adjust if you have a beveled edge door. Drill halfway through with your hole saw. Remove the core out of the hole saw. Come to the other side and then drill through to the other side, and you've got a nice clean hole. At that point, a 1 inch hole in the edge of the door, at whatever vertical center line you've achieved. 36 inch from the floor up is pretty common for residential. About 40 inch from the floor up is a bit more common for commercial. This is a deadbolt, so it's certainly going to be higher than that. As long as it doesn't exceed 48 inch, you're in compliance with handicap requirements, A117, which is a federal law for handicap compliance. No hard and fast rules, as long as you're, and don't quote me because I don't recall, but look up A117. As long as you're between about 30 inch, maybe 32 inch, and about 48 inch, you'll be within the range for handicap compliance. A standard, center to center, 5.5, 6 inch, 7 inch, 7.5, 8 inch, 9 inch, whatever you're comfortable with, center to center. I would say standardize it. I think 6 and 11/16 would be a standard for some manufacturers, so be mindful of that. 48 inch from the floor to the center line is a very common deadbolt height as well. So once you have your 1 inch hole with your antique auger bit drilled, and your bit in a brace, your bit in a brace. Are you using a brace as well with your auger? You're going to mortise the edge of the door for the faceplate. That prep's going to be 5/32 of an inch deep. Obviously, your 1/4 inch radius. So with your 2 flute 1/2 inch carbide router bit, that'll make quick work of that. Don't go back and square the corners, obviously. Then you're going to assemble the deadbolt. You're going to stick this on the outside through the exterior side. You're going to take note, the tailpiece will turn 180 degrees. That's what's called a lazy action. That's normal. That's standard. But first, you're going to put the latch bolt in the edge of the door. Then from the outside, you're going to bring your lock. From the inside, you're going to bring your thumb turn. Let's take a look. So we've got our tailpiece engaged in the latch, and then we bring our thumb turn, okay? And at this point, I'm actually going to put the two screws together to hold the lock together because we're at the part of the installation instructions where we are literally assembling the hardware together, and I wish to demonstrate the fatal flaw that tubular or auxiliary deadbolts have, and just running the screws through it just to help me hold it together. Okay. So now I've got it put together, right? I do. I can take my thumb turn. I'll hold it upside down. It doesn't matter. I can rotate that thumb turn. I can lock it and unlock it. Okay. I can take my keys and I can rotate that back. I can move the key and pull it out. I can insert the key, throw it, pull the key out. So I can leave it in the locked and unlocked position without any trouble at all. Now, where the trouble comes into with these deadbolts is I just coincidentally timed the tailpiece correctly. If you recall, it can turn 180 degrees. That's called lazy action. If I put it this way and then put it through the lock, let's see if I can just do it without reassembling everything. At this point, I can throw the latch with my key, but every time I go to return my key back to pull it back and then move the key again, it will automatically rethrow the deadbolt. See if we can demonstrate that a little bit easier. Forgive me, just getting this tested. Now basically, if I were to reverse the orientation of the tailpiece and I throw the bolt, I can lock it. But when I go to pull the bolt back, what I'm trying to say is I've got the bolt thrown and I've got my key turned all the way. I want to take my key out now, right? When I rotate it all the way back, in order to get the key back to vertical, it ends up retracting the latch bolt. So if you discover that you cannot lock or unlock with the key removed from the lock, if you can't leave it in the locked or unlocked position and have the ability to remove the lock from the cylinder, you simply have the tailpiece timed incorrectly and just simply flip it the other way. Actually, putting it in vertical will probably work in all instances. I don't know if they show us. The instructions are also for a double cylinder, so they show it both ways. It's not clear. It does show it horizontal. So the bottom line is, should you install it so that it's not timed correctly? That's your only problem. Be sure to absolutely test the operation before you leave the job, because people have called and said, I need to lock this door, but every time I pull the key out, I'm unlocking the door. Simple fix. Just change the timing of the tailpiece. Now, the lazy action itself is designed specifically so that you can throw the latch bolt and then permit rotation of the cylinder without moving the tailpiece. A rim cylinder, a true rim cylinder, every time you rotated the key, the tailpiece is going to move. There's a direct connection there. But with a lazy action, you can turn the key but not affect turning the tailpiece, and it's 180 degree is really what it is. So that's how that works. So drill the holes, install the latch. We talked about that. Latch is in the door. You've got everything screwed together. You know what to look for in case it's not timed correctly, which will allow you to resolve that sort of a problem. Install your strike. You know, the center line of the thickness of the door and the center line of the rabbet where the door is going to reside need to be on the same center line. Okay. There's going to be a distance from the face of the door to the face of the stop that you'll need to allow for. So you might take the half of the thickness of the door and you'll know when you add the dimension from the face of the door to the face of the stop. From the face of the stop to the face of the door is a specific dimension. It might be a 1/16. It might be an 1/8 of an inch. Then you add half of the thickness of the door and measure the door. Actually measure it if you can, because an 1 3/4 door is not actually 1.75. It's a little bit less. And then that'll be the center line of where you place your strike in relationship to your latch bolt. Okay. If you're measuring from the top of the door to the center line of your lock, if you're going to stick your tape measure on the underside of the header and come down on your frame, add an 1/8 of an inch, because that's the typical margin at the top of the door to the underside of the header. Old carpenters, old timers, those guys, they will carry some material with them that they will put on the tip of the latch bolt. They'll throw the latch bolt against the jamb, and they will be able to then mark the jamb. These two holes that are drilled in here, I don't know what they're for, but I can tell you they appear to be about 3/8 of an inch deep. If you got fancy and put maybe a couple of small, really small finish trim nails in there and then through it, you could mark those points on your jamb ever so slightly. But that old carpenter's trick was to, what I've been told is they would put lipstick on there, throw it, and that would mark for them easily where they needed to be for the center, for that strike. Okay. However you do it, you know, is great. You measure it properly. You come up with a good carpenter's trick to make life easier. Have at it. Okay. Got a little bit of play there, small amount, but you don't want anything excessive. Doors do tend to shrink. They tend to expand slightly with the seasons, with the changes in relative humidity. So you want to be able to have that latch right where you need it so that you're not filing anything. By all means, measure twice and cut once. So we've talked about the installation. We've talked about all the parts, what to look for. The last thing is the installation instructions on how to adjust the back set, and I believe that I adequately demonstrated that at the beginning of the video. And now this puzzle of trying to put this back together. So, great success. The name Ultra is synonymous with good quality, good, very good, a confluence of value and quality, material for both commercial and residential applications. Commercial applications would be a deadbolt like the 43608 series, although this would be very good for residential as well, obviously. Commercial material, exit devices, door closers, lock sets, look at all that stuff from Ultra. Residential hardware, I in particular am partial to their cabinet hardware. They have a good offering of quality cabinet hardware that is quality and cost conscious. They have material made of zinc and solid brass as well, a long, deep variety of that material. Not a problem with any of that. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Ultra hardware products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Ultra 43608 Standard Duty Deadbolt or any other Ultra product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.